Good day, everyone. My name is Okoroafor Christabel, and I will be talking about the myths, the misconceptions about Ubuntu philosophy, and ways people have misconstrued what Ubuntu is about. Now, my topic is basically simple: the myths, Ubuntu misnamed, Ubuntu misunderstood, and Ubuntu misused. Um, our outline is very simple. We're going to be trying to correct stereotypes, oversimplifications, and Western misreadings of Ubuntu and bring nuance and clarity to the situation. So the first thing we'll be handling is Ubuntu misnamed, Ubuntu misunderstood, and Ubuntu misused. And then the common misconceptions about Ubuntu. So Ubuntu misnamed, what does this imply? We can often see that Ubuntu is relegated to just another African word to be thrown into a mix of sentences. Oh, yeah, it's very Ubuntu. Like, I can see where you're. No, that is Ubuntu misnamed. It's not just a word, it's not just an African word, it's a philosophy and it's a sentiment. As you can see in the understanding of Ubuntu, we can see that it's in different African cultures, in different African traditions. It's not just a word that we can throw about here wherever we like. It's just like you saying jazz is just music. No, jazz has a story behind it. Jazz has a lot of depth. The jazz has history. Jazz is not just, oh yeah, just music we're playing. No, there's a lot of cultural implications and a lot of cultural background surrounding the music of jazz. Now, Ubuntu misunderstood. What do we mean by Ubuntu misunderstood? It's basically saying that Ubuntu is just being nice. Oh, Ubuntu just you being nice to people, being kind. No, Ubuntu is much more than that. Yes, that's a part of Ubuntu, but Ubuntu is broader and more deeper than that. It is an ecosystem of how life should be lived with justice and dignity present. It is not just us saying this and that, no. It's also us being people who, try to understand the relational dynamics in play in people's lives, the complex dynamics in play in the society, in systems surrounding people. So the next thing we have is Ubuntu misuse. Countless times, time after time, people just throw around the world Ubuntu just because they can, or just because they want it to feel African, or because they want it to sound like a futuristic or philanthropical mission, no, or philanthropical statement, no. So, like I said here, Ubuntu has been used as a PR tool from post-apathy speeches to corporate mission statements. It has become performative. When has African tradition been performative? It has never been. So Ubuntu has never been and will never be. So the next thing we have is the common misconceptions about Ubuntu. This is us trying to see Ubuntu through a new lens, trying to correct the wrongs, right? Rewrite the wrongs that has been written about Ubuntu. So the first misconception is that Ubuntu is ancient and unapplicable to emerging issues. No, that's not true. Very wrong. That's not true. Ubuntu is not a monolith. It evolves. It is dynamic and modern. It is not, yes, it has existed for a very long time. It has always been there in African tradition, it's always been there in African culture. However, one thing about Ubuntu is that it evolves, it is dynamic, it's not static, it changes, it tries to cover up spaces that it has not been able to cover up, like we had seen in Ubuntu and emerging issues. Now, the Ubuntu philosophy is sometimes limited in usage. However, Ubuntu philosophy can be used in different areas of life and different disciplines, like migration, diplomacy, tech, youth activism, environmental and climate change, social work, sociology, social development, governance, and many more. So that belief that we have that Ubuntu cannot be used in academic research needs to be cleared, cannot be used maybe in professional practice or teaching is very untrue. because Ubuntu is the foundation in African social work. It's the foundation in African ethics. It's the foundation in community development. When we talk about the bottom-up approach, it is foundational for community development and the longevity and sustainability of community development. Also found in climate change solutions, where we really bring to light collective action and climate justice. Also in migration solutions, where we don't overlook vulnerable populations, the displaced people, people who are displaced by war or migrants from war-ridden countries. We also tell them that, oh, your problem is my problem. I don't just stick to satisfy only my needs. We also look at the world outside ourselves as well. Now, we also have a misconception as well, another misconception that Ubuntu originated only among Bantu people or Southern Africa. Very wrong, very untrue. No, the word Ubuntu originated or gained its popularity in South Africa. However, the sentiment or the philosophy of communal living, community, and collective action has always been present in different African countries, in different African traditions. Oh, going to the village and trying to understand your tradition. Ubuntu, you're coming back to community. There's still, or maybe having maybe age grades or people, is it, I think it's old boys and old girls association, maybe having associations in a community where people in the same age grade decide to pick up a community project and decide to do something for the community. That's always been present. It's always been present in the way we have always lived our lives. So the values have always been shared across the continent in different names. That's the only thing that differs. Different names. Maybe the application as well would be different. But Ubuntu sentiment is seen across board. It is seen across board. Now in Ghana we have the Yakoye. In Nigeria, I am because we are is rooted in different economic groups of communal systems. Now I'm Igbo, and in the Igbo ethnic group, we also have the I am because we're not just acting, we believe in community, we believe in respect for elders, we believe in collective action, we believe in doing things for the community. You see people in their villages going back to pick, let's say 10, 20 people to train in school. That's a sense of community. That's having a sense of shared responsibility. Now in Kenya, we have the Harambe. The Harambe philosophy just talks about pulling together, bringing together, bringing together. Now in Senegal, we have the Taranga. That's radical hospitality and mutual respect. Now saying that Ubuntu is just South African is like saying that democracy only exists in Greece. It's originated from Greece or from the Greek life, but it's also applied across board. For example, in Nigeria, we have multiple African countries who use the democratic government. Now, although Ubuntu has a Zulu name, the vision, the sentiment is continental. Now we have Ubuntu, we have the misconception free. Ubuntu is about returning to pre-colonial life. Also untrue. Like we have already said before, Ubuntu is dynamic and it evolves with African needs. It doesn't just stay static. It evolves with what we need, covering up spaces that it has not originally taken up. So it is not about nostalgia, but it's about reclaiming our past, lands, and our future. So we're not just saying, oh, yeah, let's go back to the olden days. No. No. We're taking a certain thing from what has been passed down to us. We're not just saying that, oh, we are trying to go back to a pre-colonial past. No. We're trying to go back to what life was like then. We're not trying to go back to living in, no, that's not what we're doing. We're going back to the word community. We have noticed and we have seen in this day and age where there is a sense of me, just me, my own needs, me. We are trying to take a step back, understand what we have, what have been passed down to us, and also bring it into modern institutions. We're not trying to romanticize what it was like before pre-colonial Africa. No, we're bringing the values that we had. in pre-colonial Africa to the modern Africa. We're not trying to relive the past. We're reclaiming what is ours. We're reclaiming our identity as African. And the core concepts here in trying to bring about Ubuntu is indigenous knowledge base, our values, our ethics, our principles, our folklores, our science. We're bringing about things that we had before. Now, the next misconception is Ubuntu is inferior to Western and Eastern philosophies. Wrong again. So, in the spirit of promoting indigenous knowledge, Ubuntu on its own is robust and comprehensive. I've said this before. It is broad. It has a lot of depth. It stands on its own. It does not need to be compared to another philosophy somewhere else. No, it has the ability to stand on its own. It is broad enough and comprehensive enough to do that. So it also provides Afrocentric answers to social, ethical, and political challenges, just streaming from community and collectivity. Like it's just like saying there's nothing that we can achieve. There's nothing that we cannot achieve with when we are united. There's nothing that we cannot do when we are united. So that's what it's saying. We're not inferior, or the Ubuntu is not inferior to Western or Eastern philosophies. It is able to stand on its own. It is diverse enough. It is comprehensive enough to stand on its own. Does not need comparison. The next one is that Ubuntu is collectivist. Is a collectivist idea that erases individuality. No, it's also wrong. But it is understandable that when people think about Ubuntu, they feel like Ubuntu places importance on the individual, on the community over the individual, rather. But in actual fact, Ubuntu, by way of valuing the community, also places importance on the individual. It tries to show that African systems where the individual is at the core. Like I described before, we have the individual at the core. We have the family and that system. We have our social relationships. We have the community. All these are crucial parts of what makes you, what makes a person whole, what makes a person fully human. And just basically saying that if one person fails, society has failed. If one person wins, society has won as well. So if systems fail, then the components in the systems have failed. Because I can't say because maybe something bad's happening in my community, and because me, I am good, then everything is fine. No. If my community has failed, then I have also failed as well. I haven't done anything. I haven't tried to come together. We haven't tried to come together to bring about collective and with a mutual support for our African needs and our African problems. And Ubuntu is something that calls for community. Like we keep on saying, unity, community, and not the erasure of the individual in the community. We're not saying that, oh, no to individuals. No. However, we are calling for togetherness of the individual, a coming together of the individuals, a coming together of the individuals to form a community. Now, another misconception is that Ubuntu is just about kindness or softness, which is untrue again. Ubuntu is not just about being nice or being forgiving. It is confused with pacifism or even weakness. It is rooted in justice, not kindness, justice, what is right and what is wrong. It's also rooted in accountability, reciprocity, and dignity. It is about ethical relationships and not empty politeness, not me being nice to you, but having an ethical relationship with you, where is a give and take. It's not, oh, I'm giving you all this and then you're giving me nothing. No, it's a give and take situation. So Ubuntu is not saying turn the other cheek, but it's about knowing whose hand is raised and choosing to disarm it with justice and not vengeance, not choosing to fight. We can see people like Nnamdi Azikiwe, who fought colonialism by writing. That's choosing to disarm injustice, not with vengeance. but with outrightly speaking the truth, with outrightly speaking about what is wrong and calling out what is not right. So Ubuntu is not saying keep the peace, but it's saying make the peace just. Justice. That's the core concept here. It's not saying that we should ignore or turn a blind eye to what is going wrong. No. It's saying to ensure that our peace is just, or there is no peace at all. If a peace is not just, if the peace in the community is not just, then there is no peace at all. So we're not trying to cover injustice, but we're trying to reflect the true nature of justice. Is justice just for one group or and not for the other? Then it's not justice. It is selective justice. So the next misconception is that Ubuntu is socialist at its core. No. Although Ubuntu and socialism share certain sentiments in specific situations, we should always understand context in which socialism and Ubuntu share sentiments. However, the implementation of socialism has proven to be confiscatory and repressive due to its emphasis on state control and repression of the dissent. Let me explain that. In socialism, you see how it's only focused on the whole, the center, the center, the center, the whole, the whole. People are unable to find their individuality. Because one thing we need to also understand that individuality is unique to circumstance. Individuality is unique to relationships. Individuality is unique to social systems surrounding that individual. So for socialism, the implementation of it is really brutal. There is no justice in it. There is no respect for the human dignity. But for Ubuntu, no. When it comes to collectivity, it has to be humane, it has to be just, and it has to be voluntary. It does not force you. Ubuntu does not force you to be collective, but it employs you. It encourages that we have a more collective ideology. It prioritizes the individual and whole, not leaving anyone behind. Ubuntu is not capitalist either. It challenges exploitative structures and focuses on building systems that does not silence or oppress. We can also see another misconception that Ubuntu discourages dissent or critical thinking. Ubuntu is not the blind leading the blind or just blindly agree. No, it's not about blind agreement or creating a hostile environment for differing views or different opinions. No, it thrives on Ujama. That's collective reasoning where there's respectful dissent, where respectful dissent is not just tolerated but essential. We understand and respect people's opinions while also trying to be united, while also trying to be unified. So disagreement in Ubuntu philosophy has to be guided by care for community well-being. So you're not just disagreeing for the sake of disagreeing, or you're bringing an argument to a decision-making ground without a solution for the argument. So let's say, for example, you're trying to build a school, and you're like, oh no, let's not build the school, let's build road, or let's build a town hall. It's not saying, oh, we don't want you to talk. Mm-mm. People are able to say, oh, I prefer if we do the town hall. And then we filter the decisions based on Ubuntu. Because which one is more crucial to the needs of the community? Where we do more of is a word for it, where you put your options on a scale of hierarchy, basically, from the most important to the least important. So it has to be guided by the care of the community's well-being, not betrayal, not you going against the community. Or we're not saying that, oh, you cannot have different opinions. However, it should be filtered on the basis of the well-being of the community. So we can see that across African liberation movements, from Biko's Black consciousness to Sankara's anti-imperialism stance, Ubuntu inspires critique within community, not against it. Because Black consciousness critiqued Ubuntu, dissected it, and tried to look deep into what Ubuntu is all about, as well as Sankara's anti-imperialist stance as well. He also tried to critique Ubuntu. We are not against it. Ubuntu is not against critique. It wants different opinions. It wants different understanding of what Ubuntu could be, what it should be. Now, we can look at another misconception, that is Ubuntu has no place in academic or professional disciplines. Very wrong. We have looked at Ubuntu in emerging issues and we have seen that Ubuntu has something to say, something insightful to say about different disciplines, about different um, sectors in academia. So it is one of the most colonial myths that Ubuntu is a living Ubuntu is a living relic, or how do I put it, something ancient. It's just an ancient philosophy that we had, our ancestors just gave us, we just heard about. No, it's a living epistemology of what African is. It can be put into different aspects of African challenges, of African needs, trying to promote Afrocentric solutions to our needs. We're just looking at the Western world, also trying to develop our own indigenous knowledge as well. So we can look at the ways it informs professional disciplines. We can look at the African social work practice, community development, ethical frameworks in health, tech, government, and politics. And we can also look at environmental activism, migration, and international relations. Ubuntu is not shallow. Ubuntu is not just surface level. It is general and is broad and it is in-depth. It is comprehensive and it can be used in different disciplines. It can be used in different forms of academia. Now, we can see the last but not the least misconception that Ubuntu contradicts or cannot coexist with Christianity or Islam. Now, in post-colonial Africa, we can see that there are different religions in play in Africa, and Ubuntu is only asking one question: how do your beliefs serve the community? Do you have Ubuntu-based philosophies? Are there Ubuntu-based philosophies in your beliefs, be it traditionalist religion, or be it Christianity, be it Islam? How do your beliefs serve the community? So Ubuntu-based values of hospitality, justice, compassion, and communal care are things that are already present in Christianity and Islam religions. So Ubuntu in the present day understands that while the effects of colonization cannot be erased, that's religion. We cannot just use an eraser and just remove the fact that religion is fully imbibed into modern day Africa. But it stands head high alongside different religions, only holding them accountable and performing a moral litmus test for their actions. Like I said before, just bringing a filter for the actions of religious leaders or religious people as well. Um, I think it's very amazing that we're able to really look into the misconceptions of Ubuntu. Many things would come out while trying to research or understand Ubuntu, and it's important that we as Africans see into Ubuntu. We see into what it has to offer. We see into the misconceptions, the ways that it has been misnamed, the way that it has been misunderstood. And so the bottom line here is that Ubuntu is not a myth, but the myths around it distort its truth. Ubuntu is not primitive or anti-modern. Ubuntu is not just a concept; it's an ethical and moral compass, and it is not incompatible with religion or professionalism. It is not passive or nostalgic. It is very much active and it evolves, it's dynamic. And it's also not anti-individual. Ubuntu upholds the whole and individual, not leaving anyone behind. And so When we think about the misconceptions that distort the truth of what Ubuntu philosophy is about, we can see that when you misname it, you mute the voice of Ubuntu, you mute the voice of community. When you misunderstand it, you declare and it basically dilutes what Ubuntu has to offer. And when you misuse it, you colonize it all over again. That being said, I want to say a very big thank you to my colleagues and my senior colleagues as well who have given me this opportunity to talk about the misconceptions of what Ubuntu is. And I'll just like to say, see you in the next video. Thank you.